This is Sam Spencer, and I'm pleased to be joined by a man who needs no introduction. Senator Mitchell, of course, has brought international fame by being one of the most accomplished legislators of the last century and by his efforts to bring peace to troubled places in the world. Time magazine recently named him one of the 100 most influential people in the world. Despite his prominence, since leaving the Senate in 1995, Senator Mitchell has continued an intense interest and involvement in the state of Maine. Senator Mitchell is joining us from New York, where he is chairman of DLA Piper, one of the world's largest law firms. Senator, thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Sam.
Senator, I know you have a lot of demands on your time, but year after year you take the time to come to civic and political events in Maine. By my account, you've been in Maine about 3 or 4 times in the last 2 months alone. Why is it so important for you to stay involved in Maine?
Well, I still regard Maine as my home and always will. I do, in fact, own a home in Seal Harbor, and I spend the entire summer there and go up frequently during the non-summer months. In addition, I have a daughter and grandson who live in South Portland, and I like to visit them.
On Tuesday, you spent the day campaigning with Tom Allen in Presque Isle and Waterville and Lewiston. What do you think of the energy level among Maine Democrats this year?
The level of energy is very high among Democrats in Maine, as it is around the country. I've been in other parts of the country on behalf of the Obama campaign. I think there's a very strong desire for change and a lot of strong support for the Obama-Biden ticket. And I found that to be the case at every stop I made in Maine.
Now, you've known Tom Allen for 40 years, is that right?
I have, yes.
Among other things you have in common, you both went to Bowdoin. You both worked for Senator Muskie, although I don't think you overlapped. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've been associated with him during that time and what your opinion you've formed with him over that time has been?
Well, I say when I speak with him at public events that I first became aware of Tom when he was a star halfback at Deering High School in Portland. And I knew his father and mother, two of the very finest people I've ever known. His father, Charlie Allen, was a great, probably the best and most respected lawyer in Maine during his career. And then Tom went on to Bowdoin, and what I say is that here's a guy who's been scoring touchdowns all of his life, even when he wasn't expected to, and I think he's going to do so again this year. I followed his career as a personal friend and supporter, as mayor of Portland, a member of the Portland City Council, then, of course, in Congress, particularly in recent years. And I think he's a terrific candidate and will, if elected, be a strong and effective senator for Maine. Now, that being said, he obviously has a tough race because he's running against a popular and well-financed incumbent, and that's never an easy task.
Senator, few people understand the Senate as well as you do, and maybe you could explain for our viewers the significance of reaching 60 senators, the Democrats reaching 60 senators this election. And, of course, Tom Allen can be part of that, reaching 60 senators. Why is that important for the Senate? Why isn't it important just to reach 51 votes?
No president can implement his program, or soon, I think, her program, without a supportive Congress. And in the Senate, 51 votes is not enough to do anything. You can't even bring up a bill, let alone pass one, unless you have 60 votes. That's the way the Senate rules are written. It requires more than a majority, a supermajority, 60 out of 100 votes to bring a bill up, 60 out of 100 votes to pass a bill, except in very unusual and extraordinary circumstances. As a consequence, people who believe in change in this country right now and who are supporting Senator Obama for that reason really should understand and should know that supporting Senator Obama and then supporting a Republican for the Senate means putting him in but depriving him of the ability to put into place the changes that he wants to make, and that's the reason why they're voting for him.
Why do you think some Maine voters may be having a problem seeing that clearly?
Well, I think that the incumbent senator is popular and well-liked, and she's a nice person, and so people find it hard to distinguish between the two. But the reality is that unless the Democrats can get 60 votes, President Obama is not going to be able to change anything. He isn't going to be able to get his programs adopted. The Republicans will prevent him from doing so. And that's why it doesn't make any sense to say, I want Obama because I want change, and then cast votes that make it impossible for Obama to get the change that he's promised and that are the reason why people are voting for him.
You did not serve in the Senate with Barack Obama. You left long before he was elected to the Senate. Have you met him, and have you talked to him, and what are your impressions of him as a person?
I have met him. I've talked to him. I don't know him well, and I certainly am not one of his inner circle, although I'm fully supportive of his campaign and have been working hard in his behalf. Ironically, I know John McCain very well. I served for many years in the Senate with Senator McCain. I like him. I regard myself as a friend of his. I think he regards me as a friend. But our policy positions are simply completely different. And I think the central issue facing the country today is the economy. Economic growth and job creation. Everything else hinges on that. Foreign policy, health care, education, infrastructure, everything depends upon a strong economy. And here's the way I look at it. We have an unusual opportunity to measure the policies of the two parties because we've just had 8 years of a Republican president, for 6 of those years a Republican Congress, pursuing Republican policies, and for the 8 years before that we had just the opposite, a Democratic president, for 6 of those years a Democratic Congress, pursuing Democratic policies. And look at the results in the economy. In the Clinton years, nearly 23 million new jobs were created. In the Bush years, less than 5 million, and it's going down fast. We've lost 760,000 jobs already this year, and it'll probably reach 1 million by the end of the year, jobs lost. In the Clinton years, 330,000 new manufacturing jobs were created. In the Bush years, 3.5 million manufacturing jobs were lost. There are 3.5 million fewer Americans engaged in manufacturing today than there were when President Bush took office. In Maine, the numbers are similar. 98,000 new jobs created while Clinton was president, 5,000 new jobs while Bush was president. When Clinton left office, the federal budget had a surplus of $235 billion. Bush will leave office with a deficit of $455 billion. And the most incredible figure of all is that in his term, President Bush has increased the national debt by an amount equal to the national debt incurred by all previous 42 presidents over the prior 212 years of our nation's history. That's so fantastic, I have to repeat it. If you take all of the national debt added up by 42 presidents over the 212 years of American history before George Bush became president, he himself in his term has doubled the debt, increased it in an amount equal to that which all of his predecessors did together. It just has not been an effective policy, and there's no doubt about it, Senator McCain will pursue the policies of President Bush. He himself says the centerpiece of his economic program is to make the Bush tax program permanent. Well, it's not called the Bush tax program for nothing. It is President Bush's tax program, even though Senator McCain voted against it when it was in the Senate and condemned it as an unwise policy. He now supports it, and it's the centerpiece of his economic program. So here we've got this very vivid, sharp contrast, and I can't see why anyone thinks it would be better to continue with policies which have clearly failed as opposed to policies which were remarkably successful when they were in place.